What is up, y'all? We are here for the first artist spotlight. It's come to this. I've definitely been excited for this, and it's taken about 50 weeks of Jam of the Days to get here. But it's my way of spotlighting and kind of, diving in a little bit deeper with some of these artists that are on the Jam of the Day. And today I have none other than Cookie Dough. I have the pleasure of being good friends with him. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We met, probably about 10 years now, through mutual friends.
Back in Fort Worth.
Right?
Fort Worth days.
Yep, Fort Worth days. So let's just dive in a little brief overlay of kind of Cookie Dough's last year. He's actually released 4 tracks with us now. The first one being 8 months ago, and that one was called How You Do. Second one being about 3 months ago, and that was on Terminal Underground's, and that was Naughty. 2 months ago, we got Touch My Soul, which was a solo release, and the latest track, Give Me Some Keys, Matrodo's little bootleg, and that was released a couple days ago. He's had 2 label releases this year, one with 19K, and that's Dirty Monkey's label, as well as Terminal Underground, which is Matrodo's label that I mentioned earlier. He had some big name shows, Lights All Night and Ubby Dubby, as well as 20 others, in addition to Weekly, which I believe started up 3 months ago, give or take. And he's also co-founder and CEO for a brand and event company called Fancy Pants, who had 70 artists last year and did 22 shows. Crazy. I don't know how you do it all, to be honest, with a 9-to-5 job, but thank you for coming out.
It's even crazier when you say it all back to back. But yeah, man, of course, appreciate it.
Yeah, when I was compiling it together, I was like, holy cow, that's crazy. Just like having it all written out. I know you do a lot, but
yeah, I mean, it all just kind of happens one after the next, so you never really have time to stop and think about it. But also, let me just add at this point that I could never do that on my own. Like, I'm surrounded by awesome people, so
hard facts.
It's a lot, but it's definitely takes a community. That's for sure.
100%. I wish I had a community on this, but it's definitely growing and building up on this side of things. So, and I know I've been fortunate enough to be helping out with Fancy Pants since the start and being involved with that. So it's fun to see where it's growing, and 70 artists and 22 shows is crazy to hear out loud. So we'll see what we do next year.
I think already how it's starting, we're on pace to break that by a long shot. So if all goes as planned, I think we'll look back and be like, wow, it's even crazier.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what we do with that this year. So,
definitely.
But let's dive into the remix, the Machodo Give Me Some Keys remix. I mean, just to give kind of my brief overlay on it, it's a combination of your work the last 3 years. It's like your sound in a nutshell. For anybody who doesn't know how you produce, he's literally a computer. Like, he'll get on every day and work for 4 hours because that's what he does. So whereas a lot of other people get inspiration through emotion and in other ways, but Cookie's just it's what he does. He eats, sleeps, and whenever he has extra time, he does music. So it's cool to see the idea come into fruition. So
yeah, for sure, man.
But
it's like one of those things where it's my escape. So the thing I look forward to doing more than anything else. So all those things you mentioned, all the shows and the 9-to-5 and the other stuff I'm going on, this is like my escape from it. So I don't even feel like I'm having to force myself to sit down and put in those hours. It's like what I want to be doing.
100%.
To force myself to do the other stuff.
So how did this track come to be? Was it just another one of your sit down sessions, or was it after Lights All Night, or did you get some inspiration after maybe releasing a track with him?
Yeah, so I've been a fan of Matroda for a while, and kinda seeing his sound develop, and, like, he's always been really good at just staying true to himself, but also kinda growing with the times and, what's popular, but in a tasteful way, as sounds develop and as they grow and as taste changes. You as an artist kinda need to be able to translate that in your own style, and he's always been great at it, so I've always been a big fan, and signing on, Terminal Underground was definitely, it was a top dream label for me to get a chance to work with, so that was really cool how it all worked out. And this track in particular was interesting because, like you said, I just make music all the
Hmm.
time.
Yeah.
I make a folder every month of tracks, and there's probably 30 tracks in each folder. And maybe a handful or less of those I'll actually go back and finish. I just try to throw ideas at a wall and see what sticks and go back and listen to it. And if it sounds interesting, then I finish it. But this one, I had a goal to do. So initially, this track was for the Discovery Project
Mm,
competition,
okay.
which I never done before. I've never, I've downloaded some remix competitions, but I've never actually sat down and finished one. But a good friend of mine in Austin, named Pedro, who helps me a lot with my mixing and mastering,
Hmm.
is an incredible artist, incredible songwriter, and probably the best engineer I've ever met in my life. He actually pushed me to do this. He was like, "You're gonna finish this one," and it was the competition was to go play EDC Orlando. So this was a track I actually sat down and was like, "Okay, I have 2 weeks to make this." This was back in October, I think, sometime around then,
Yeah.
and so I was like, "This is different for me. I've never really worked on a deadline. I'm gonna make this happen." And so that's kinda how that went about, and, it just made sense. I just signed a 19 or on a Terminal Underground, and big fan of Matroda, big fan of the song, would love to go play EDC Orlando,
X.
and, yeah, I had a ton of positive feedback on the song. Unfortunately, it didn't get selected, but, did hear from the team over there, and they were really happy with it, and they gave me the green light to go ahead and just release it out as my own as a bootleg, so that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I
Um,
think it's one of those things where your name's known now, and in due time, it's gonna come. I think I've been telling you that for years.
yeah, no, I appreciate it.
But
I
for
definitely
me,
have imposter syndrome about it. I
yeah,
don't think that way, but I
facts,
appreciate you saying that.
facts. Everything in due time. If you put enough effort into it, it's gonna come into fruition. So,
Sure.
but stylistically, for me, it was like, how do you up Matrodo? Like, especially like just releasing a track off his label, and then you go ahead and do a bootleg of his track. It's like, how do you make it different? Like, what kind of went into your head on that concept of things?
Yeah, so ironically in the past when I've done remixes, have a very bad habit of just taking a lot of the pieces of the song and just making something totally different out of them, which is cool. And I think there's definitely like some of my favorite remixes are like that. I think that's a really cool way to approach it. But with his style being you know, just so driving. The best thing about Mature Tracks is like, especially his newer stuff, is it's so high energy and it's so simple in the best way. It just
Hmm.
relies on a good structure and good sound design and well mixed, and everything needs to be pumping and moving forward and like, make you want to just put your hands up on the dance floor and smile and move your feet. So I really wanted to keep it true to his style, but put my spin on it. And for me, the easiest way to put my spin on something is my sound design.
Hmm.
So I took a lot of like the samples that were in the track and a lot of the sounds that were in the track and either recreated them with my own spin or just straight up sampled them and just mangled the samples around and
I did a lot of
did a lot of
warping. I'm
stretching.
assuming. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a huge if you've ever,
Time.
because you've worked with me in the studio before.
Hmm.
I love mangling samples. I love warping things. I like resampling things, running them through effects and resampling them again and stretching them out. So it was a lot of that. And then I really wanted to lay down like a solid groove because, in my head, I was like, I want to see Matroda play the original and then like maybe drop in the mine on the second drop or something like that. Like I
Hmm.
want it to still work with the original track. So I just switched up the grooves a little bit. You know, the original track is very sustained. It has that kind of like long sustained bass line that is definitely hot, but I wanted to chop it up a little bit, like a little groovier, you know, make it pump a little bit. So I
Yeah,
really focus on the groove and the bass, and then just taking those sounds and kind of keeping it true to the same structure, but just mangling them up in the way I like to do it.
100%. It sounded like a different track. I was honestly amazed. At first, I didn't really pay attention to the name of the track, other than the fact that it was from you. And then I went to find out it was a bootleg after. I was like, oh shit! Wait, time out. This doesn't sound like Matroda's track. That's awesome.
Yeah,
So you
that's
did
yeah,
you did a great way, and like even in my notes, I put you did put a great way of finding like a darker melodic texture that I didn't think was
yeah,
evident in that track to begin with.
I
So,
appreciate it. Yeah,
um,
and also use a lot of like analog synth
okay.
emulators and plugins because just keys, like give me some keys. That's the whole point of the track. Like,
Hmm.
uh, I was like,
Anyone
okay,
in particular that you went hard on? Any analog synth?
yeah, I use a lot of the Arteria stuff. I'm looking for that. So like, I think I use the Juno emulator or whatever they call it in Arteria,
They have
and I
they
think
have
I
a
use the
couple,
Prophet.
but yeah.
Yeah, and then I also use the like a Moog emulator. So
Hmm.
like in the second break, there's like this kind of just like really like it's almost dissonant, like the way it comes in, like just because sound is so unique, but that's definitely like that characteristic like Moog bass where it almost just kind of starts falling apart on itself and is like really kind of grimy but crunchy at the same time. So
100%. It reminded me of like a Stefan Brodson who just runs the Moog on stage live. That's what I was just like envisioning on the track. And like
yeah.
for me, I don't really know you to know to use a Tura that much, and that's kind of all I use on my melodic side of stuff. So it's great to hear you getting into the analog side.
Oh yeah, I definitely use it all the time. I mean, I do the
So,
same thing I said before though, like I'll resample it and
hmm.
like move it around and I like the Arturia stuff because I like sound design a lot. I get really into like designing stuff. Even if I start with a preset, I just go in and just mingle it up. But with Arturia stuff, uh, you know, I know how to work those synths, but there's only so much you can do with them,
Hmm.
really. So it's kind of fun just to dive into those presets and then do all the processing like outside of the box instead of trying to like get all caught up in like fine tuning little filters within the synth and stuff.
Yeah,
I kind of just rely on their presets and then do my own thing after I record it.
yeah, visually Arturo is great just because it feels so like organic having the
Mhm.
visual synth in front of you and stuff like that. So, but I
Definitely.
love your approach. It makes a lot of sense to be honest, and
Yeah.
it helps me kind of like figure out where your headspace was at with this track. What was your favorite part of the track personally?
Yeah, I love the second drop. Like I if you listen to the original track, the way it builds tension into the second drop is very similar in the way it releases it, but the sounds are so different. Like I said, I have like a lot of analog sounds going into that second drop, and then when the drop hits, and I use a lot of like Serum and Vital and all these digital synths so
Hmm.
that those sounds on the actual drop are like really crunchy and really high endy and like it just has so much energy right there and the way it kind of cuts back out, the drums will cut back out and it has these like really digital sounds that come in, then drums all come back in. I don't know. I really like the second drop, the way it goes into it, and like the first half of the second drop.
Yeah,
Probably
the
my favorite
after
part.
the first 16 bars when it has a little um, breakdown
Yeah.
and build back up. Yeah, it's nasty. Absolutely
Yeah. I
incredible.
also pitched the track. I forget exactly, but I think it was like maybe like a seventh down or a fifth down or a third down or something like that. But I did it in a way where it still could be mixed like in key with the original track
Hmm.
and kind of did that on purpose too. Like I said, with that intent of like you could play both
And
these tracks at the same time. You could play, you know, the original into the remix or something like that, and it would still
100%.
work.
Makes a lot
So
of sense for a
yeah,
set too. So,
yeah. And having a DJ background, you know, I've been DJing a lot longer than I've been producing. I think about that stuff more. Probably too much at times, but I'm constantly thinking about like how is this track gonna play out? Um,
Yeah, I don't think a
Um,
lot of people recognize that for the first probably 4 or 5 years of your career, he was absolutely just tearing up nights in Nacogdoches for SFA. So
yeah,
you ran nights there for what, 2, 3 years, I believe.
yeah, longer than that, probably at least 4 years.
The Lumberyard,
Um,
right?
yeah, it was a couple clubs over
Mm-hmm.
there, but the last one was Lumberyard. So if you're from NAC and you're listening to this, what's up?
Throwback.
Uh, yeah, I still have like all these DMs on Twitter from back in those days of people just DMing me like 11 o'clock on a Saturday night and being like, quit playing so much EDM and all this stuff. I definitely force fed that East Texas town electronic music for a long time. And yeah, I think they liked it. I definitely enjoyed it a lot more.
I mean, it's needed. Me and Holden had to do it in Fort Worth as well. So, and now you see what it's sprouted up to Abu Dhabi. So, it's a
Yeah,
perfect segue into kind of what the future of cookie dough is. What I know you have a Big Ben Fest coming up, and
yeah,
as in addition to these weeklies that you're playing every week out in Dallas. Just want to dive into some shows you got coming up or anything big.
yeah. Yeah, so yeah, my next big show is the Big Bend or Big Bond Festival down in Big Bend.
Hmm.
So it's a really cool guys out of Austin to put this together. And it's literally out in the desert in Big Bend National Park for a weekend. So I'm really looking forward to that. There's a bunch of cool artists on there, artists from like all over the country too. Like it's kind of this small niche thing, but and I think it's only their third or fourth year doing it, but
Hmm.
it's already got a pretty broad reach. So I'm really excited about that. Going back up to Canada end of March for a couple shows. Probably gonna do a Fancy Pants show up in Saskatoon, and then opening for Odd Mob in Calgary, uh, April 1st, I believe.
Okay.
Um, a couple other things that are pending, maybe some stuff down in Austin, maybe another couple of random support slots here in Dallas. You mentioned the weekly, so um, we've been doing a weekly every Thursday at a really awesome speakeasy called Akai in Dallas. It's called Velvet Nights is the name of the weekly, and it's it's all house and techno music, and every week it ranges. We get minimal, we get groovy, we get progressive, we get high energy. Every once in a while, we get a little bass house in there. Every once in a while, we have a fully techno night. You know, there's been known to hear a little like Liquid D&B from time to time.
Hmm.
Um, but we definitely keep it really fresh and groovy there. And like the whole premise behind that was, you know, we wanted to give Dallas another night where you could go somewhere that was nice, but that you felt welcomed at, and you could listen to the music you love. So we're getting a bunch of people that, you know, love underground house and techno and want to go listen to it in a nice club and hang out with their friends and be treated well by the staff. And then we're also introducing it to a lot of people that you know, they know cool spots and they're looking for different places and things to do in Dallas. And if that place also is playing music they're not familiar with, then all the better.
Yeah.
So it's been super cool. And if you're in Dallas or in Texas or, you know, the US in general, and you find yourself in Dallas on a Thursday night, highly recommend you come check it out. Me and Holden are two residents right now, so we play most weeks, not every week, but most weeks we'll either be playing the early or the late slot or sometime in between. But we every week have a ton of awesome talent from around the DFW area, so definitely come check it out.
100%. It's a pretty cool club, and it definitely gives off a exclusive vibe because it's in the back of a restaurant. Um,
Yeah, you go through the kitchen to get in there, and it's
yeah.
crazy because it looks so exclusive, and we want it to look that way. We want it to feel that way, but it's so not exclusive, you know, when compared to other places, especially in Dallas. You're not gonna find a more welcoming place, you
Yeah,
know.
considering it, and it's free with RSVP, so that's another
It's
perk.
free,
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll make sure I link up with you after and get all the shows you talked about down below. Um, and as well as if you guys made it this far, make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe button. I guess the last thing I really wanted to touch on was kind of what you have going forward with tracks. If you're planning on just releasing kind of every 2 weeks, every month, if you have any big label releases you wanted to talk about, or just kind of anything you wanted to say before we wrapped things up.
Sure. Yeah, I definitely, I think it's don't live under a rock as far as electronic music goes. SoundCloud's trying to make this comeback, so I plan on releasing a lot of edits and a lot of remixes on SoundCloud this year. It's something I've been slacking on. I miss those days of SoundCloud prior where you just pumped them out and put them out like crazy, and so I definitely plan on doing a lot of SoundCloud edits and bootlegs and fun stuff like that. And then I do have some cookie dough tracks that are, yeah, should be seeing the light here pretty soon. I just got a deal to sign a few more tracks today, actually. So probably be hearing more about that in the coming weeks, hopefully, or months,
Heck
depending on
yeah.
how long it takes.
Heck yeah. Yeah, I know.
uh,
I know it's a process with that. So
yeah, and that's the thing too. Like that's why I'm glad SoundCloud's coming back. I'm really enjoying working with labels. It's definitely a cool, different experience. But it's different in some bad ways too. You sign tracks and they don't come out for 6 months or a year, and I get it, and it's fun in its own way, but I definitely want to keep putting out stuff. So I also plan on, I've been fortunate to work with some of my favorite labels this past year, which is awesome, and I'd like to continue doing that and plan on doing it. But I'm definitely going to branch out a little bit and work with some smaller labels, and just so I can keep putting out music. You
heck
know,
yeah.
I have a lot that I'm sitting on that needs to be heard. So
100%. I was about to say that. You took the words right out of my mouth. I know you have an archive of files that needs to be finished. So I'll have to
absolutely,
work my way over there one day and help you finish a bunch of them. And
please, yeah,
but yeah,
I
I
love working with other people, especially when it's you.
yeah, yeah. I think the last track we have, we still need to finish up. What was that? The Giga Lab one, I believe.
Yeah,
So maybe
yeah.
maybe
I
we'll do
listened to
something
that the
with it.
other day, actually.
I use it
That's a good
every once
track.
in a while for the jam of the day, like the intros and stuff like that. We'll have to do something with it eventually. So,
Yeah,
but
that's
yeah,
definitely warehouse vibes.
oh,
Really nice.
100%. Yeah, I'll have to go on a B2B. Um,
Oh yeah,
but
definitely.
I appreciate you stopping by, man, and thank you for being the first one for the
Of
artist
course.
spotlight. And hopefully, there's many more to come. I have some in the future in plans. For now, we're going to be sticking probably to DFW artists, but we'll see. Hopefully, we can scope out to some of these other artists who are on the jam of the day a lot, just like Cookie Dough. I'm
Yeah,
excited.
absolutely, man. I'm excited to see what happens with this channel. It's gonna grow. So
I appreciate that. It's just a labor of love at this point. So we'll see where it goes. But yeah,
big
let's
things in its future.
let's wrap things up and let's go to Cookie's favorite part of the track and end it on the second drop. Like I said, I appreciate everybody stopping by. If you made it this far, hit the like button as well as the subscribe button. And I will see you guys probably next month for another artist spotlight. Thanks again, Cookie. I'm excited to see what you
Thank
do
you.
next year. Um, and best of luck to you. And let's dive in to the second drop.
Later.
Girl, I love the way you dance. I love the way you dance. Girl, I love the way